What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and it's far too late for this. I'll just be honest. We're doing this for the love of the game. This is Ron Stewart YouTube After Dark, if you will. And really, what this is ever since I was a kid, and really just because the Jets have always sucked, I love the NFL draft. Since I was a kid, I would scribble NFL mock drafts in the back of the classroom. I would have my own mock draft that I would have every year. And I'm now in a fortunate enough position that I can have a mock draft that you guys will watch and then I could submit for scoring because of my platform. And it's just something I feel like I owe to my younger self. So it's something I do every year. The deadline's at 1 a.m. Eastern. Yes, I worked literally up until the buzzer on this mock draft. Now, what we're going to be doing here is going over the mock draft, and I want to sort of cover what the scoring is beforehand just so that we get that out of the way. I'm going to get my screen shared here in a second. I will say I've been having internet issues, so if we cut out, that would absolutely suck. Like, it would suck real bad if that was to happen here. Are we already having issues? Please, no. I think that we're good. What's going on, everybody? All right, so here we go. This is all I was trying to do. This is the site that we submit the scores on. I'm trying to see if they show what the scoring is. Mock draft scores. Yeah, this is pretty much what it is. Mock drafts are scored 1 point for a player placed in round 1. So you get 1 point if a player gets drafted in round 1. 2 points for a player-team match. You'll see there's going to be a couple of players here that I don't really know how a team either ends up trading up to get this player or what happens there, but it's just very simply, I think that this player is going to go here. And, I have a pretty decent track record, man. I really do this for the love of the game, right? If you're one of these most accurate mock drafters, you get nothing, right? Like Jason Boris, God bless him, but I don't know who. He's not some household name, But something I do for fun, something I enjoy doing. So let's hop into one of these. We will do an NFL mock draft simulator over on PFF. Now you might be asking, Ron, it is 1:42 a.m. Eastern time. Why are you doing this right now? Well, again, I worked on it up until 1 a.m. I could have gone to sleep and then done it in the morning, but by the time the morning happens, I feel like people stop caring about the NFL, or people care about the draft, but it's kind of the idea of maybe we get more information, maybe a trade happens and all of this isn't really all that useful anymore. And then also you have, I'm going to go to bed at 3 a.m. tonight and I don't want to have to do a mock draft in the morning is also what it comes down to. But what do we got? Genji's in here. How's everybody doing? I will say as well, before we get into any of these picks, make sure you check out Underdog. Use promo code RON when you deposit there. They'll match your first deposit up to $1,000. Links in the description, the comment section, and it's the pinned comment in the live chat. Maybe he meant to set it for 1:30 p.m. No, sir. Mr. August in April, sort of. I don't want to make... We did this last year. I don't want to make this a tradition, but I'm such a procrastinator, and I was getting, actual fantasy football stuff done before, right? So, pretty much, after I was done working, I worked on my mock draft. So that's why I ended up working so late here. Fantasy Football Garage is in here. We got Among Us in here. And I will say again, this is a fantasy football channel. This is truly just for the love of the game and a one-off NFL mock draft video. Yeah, only first-time users. All right, let's get going here. We have 31 people in here. I'm not really expecting this to be a huge... attendance from the people. I put together a shitty thumbnail as well. This is just simply because I'm submitting this for scoring. My publication is YouTube, right? I don't have a website. I can't just put it out on Twitter, so it had to go on YouTube at some point. We got hellos from all over the place. That's actually pretty sweet. So let's get right into this. Let's stop horsing around here. The draft is going to go chalk, right? You have Cam Ward. He's going to go 1 to the Titans. That's been set in stone. The Browns are going to go Travis Hunter. That is set in stone. The Giants go Abdul Carter, though. I think that there's an outside chance that if somebody dangles and I will say there's going to be plenty of times here where I, think that maybe my internet's about to go out again. I've been having issues with that. If anybody saw me on Pat Crane's show, Legendary Upside, in the past week or so, but I think we're good to go. If like the connection is bad, let me know. Ron just did this for tax deduction. That's just not true. All right. So number 4, Will Campbell again. Okay, so what I was trying to say there is Abdul Carter. I could see the Giants trading back if somebody was willing to give them a 2026 first in return to go out here and draft Abdul Carter. But for now, we have Abdul Carter to the Giants. Then we have Will Campbell to the Patriots. And that's our top 4. That's pretty much all set in stone. Nothing gets interesting until pick 5. And this is where the draft starts. And there's a lot of speculation that there's a deal in place or a deal that could be done where the Jaguars trade back to the 10 spot, the Bears come up. I'm not an expert in terms of what that compensation looks like. But again, for the sake of this mock, it's not about getting all the trades right and all of that. It's just player to team. And I think whether the Jaguars sit at 5 or whether they trade back, I think that Tet McMillan goes to the Jaguars. It just seems like I would just be absolutely floored if this new super young GM Gladstone just comes in here and decides, all right, we're going to take a running back 5th overall. I will say another player in contention here is Jalen Walker, the edge rusher out of Georgia. Now, for the Raiders here, a lot of steam around Genty. I'm not really buying it. I think that they are smart enough to know that they're not a running back away from being a good team. So I think that they actually go out here and they take Armand Membu. He tested like an absolute monster. He, to me, is somebody that looks a lot like Spytek's old regime with Tampa Bay. He's now the new GM for the Raiders. He looks a lot like Tristan Wirfs, super big athletic tackle that kind of is more of a natural right tackle. I think that that makes a lot of sense for them. But the issue is, and kind of where I'm straying from consensus first here, is the Jets. They're my favorite team. I've never really had a great read on them, but I find it shocking that if the draft went this way, everyone seems to think that it's Kelvin Banks or it's Tyler Warren, that they're going to take somebody on offense. And I just am not really buying it. Everybody just sort of assumes it's going to be offense, whether it's Membu, whether it's Banks, whether it is Tyler Warren. And Aaron Glenn comes from Detroit. He's a defensive coach. And if Mason Graham falls like this to number 7, if they have him as like a blue chip player on their board, what's stopping them from taking Mason Graham? To me, it's nothing. So I think I'm probably one of the only people that have Mason Graham to the Jets. I just think that that makes a lot of sense. And it was something early on that like kind of the Jets fan base was expecting. I love this. No way in hell does McMillan go 5th off the board. Again, the way the scoring works is it's simply just Tet McMillan to the Jaguars. That is all I am predicting here, man. So could be at the 10 spot, could be at the 5 spot, could be at the 32nd spot. I don't really care. It just matters if Tet goes to the Jaguars. Now, number 8, Jalen Walker. We have. And I'll get to that super chat once I'm done. I will say no other super chats. I'm trying to get in and get out here, fellas. We have Jalen Walker. He's just been linked to the Panthers this entire time. I don't specialize in that side of the ball. I couldn't tell you. It seems like he looks a lot like Nolan Smith out of Georgia. Seems like he is a really good guy off the field. Carolina probably cares about that. And then also with Carolina, with Jalen Walker, like Jalen Walker could slide into the teens if the Panthers trade back here. Then all of a sudden, like, Jalen Walker's still in play for them, so kind of protecting me there when we talk about the game theory of the scoring. I will say I kind of attack the mock draft stuff as if it's a March Madness bracket, where I just like there's certain chalk picks or certain players that I have connected to teams that I think that could happen in a trade down, all of that. So at 9. And this one is interesting because I do think that Tyler Warren's in play. I think Ashton Genty's in play. Mykel Williams has been linked to them a bunch. But I think that they kind of get a gift here because if Membu goes to the Raiders, I have a hard time believing it's Kelvin Banks to the Jets. They already have Fashanu at left tackle. Kelvin Banks is a left tackle, I believe. So I just don't think that it makes a ton of sense. And I have a hard time believing that they pass on Mason Graham. So at the 9 spot, we are going to take Kelvin Banks. They get offensive line help here. I think he slots in at left tackle. They're not extending Trevor Penning. They could, they could trade back here. Not that Kelvin Banks would fall to them, but I think that's another option as well. And if you want an off-the-wall pick for this 9 spot, I could see if this ends up being Banks, and then this ends up being Membu, I could see Tyler Booker or like Josh Connerly out of Oregon as early as 9. Now, again, I don't know if Ashton Jeanty falls to 10. I don't know if the Bears trade up to 8 or if they trade up to 7 or if they trade up to 6 or 5 or whatever. But I think at the end of the day, the Bears do end up with Ashton Jeanty. They can sell themselves on this being a good enough team that they are a running back away from being, championship contenders. Now at the 11 spot, this has been a popular spot where like Mason Graham will fall to. I've seen a lot of Walter Nolan, but he has like off the field things going on. I'm going to give them Mykel Williams because he's kind of been a late riser here as everybody is like sort of giving, why can't I find him? Everyone's giving Mykel to the Saints. Instead, I have him going to the Niners. I think it just makes sense for them to start building back up their trenches. Outside of Nick Bosa, it's kind of shaky there. So that is my thinking with that. Then we have the Cowboys. I'm still not sold on this pick, but it's just the only one that makes sense in this spot, right? I will say if Tet doesn't go to the Jags, and I think Tet goes 12 to the Cowboys, but if Tet doesn't make it out of the top 10, I think another spot too, like I think Tet could go to the Jags. I think Tet's live for the Jets. I think Tet's live for the Panthers as well. But if he goes to none of those places, then I think it's Matthew Golden. I struggle to see how NFL front offices think that he is a wise pick, 12th overall, but Jerry Jones is out of his mind, and he's a Texas kid. That's all I can really muster there. After that, let's get to the Dolphins. This is another one where, like, if you wanted to talk me into Walter Nolan, you could. If you wanted to talk me into offensive line, you could. But we're going to go Jahdae Barron. Apparently, he's like, again, we're talking like high character, great guy off the field. I've never interviewed any of these guys, but seems like he's a good dude. Jalen Ramsey's potentially on the chopping block. All of that, I think it makes sense. Now, again, this is another one of these picks where I don't know if Tyler Warren, I don't know if the Colts trade up or how they end up with Tyler Warren, but we're giving them Tyler Warren. If you want to say maybe they trade up with the Panthers and they take Tyler Warren 8th overall and the Panthers get Jalen Walker 14th overall, it's just not worth my time to worry about the in-draft trades. I am simply just trying to pick player to team. That's all I really care about when it comes to scoring for these mocks. And I think Tyler Warren ends up in Indianapolis at the end of the day. Then we have number 15. This one's tricky. Apparently, the Falcons and the Bengals are good with Mike Green and James Pierce, the two edge rushers that kind of have character concerns. Again, I don't interview these guys. I don't know what these guys' character is like. I know some of them have like charges or weird things going on. But Mike Green to the Falcons, I think, makes sense. They need defensive line help. They need pass rush, and to me, that fits like a glove. Apparently, he absolutely murdered the Senior Bowl. He looked great there. So he's going 15th overall. After that, give me Will Johnson to the Cardinals. Now, this is one of the picks where I think the Cardinals could really do anything. The Cardinals could take defensive line. They could take offensive line. I've seen them mocked wide receivers, corners, really anything. I think the only stuff that's not in play is like quarterback and tight end for them. But we go Will Johnson here. Jonathan Gannon is a zone-centered defensive coach, and he doesn't really have an outside corner. So I think that it makes sense for Will Johnson to go there. He has like medical issues, and this is him falling, but I think 16 is where it ends up. Now, the Cardinals could very easily trade back, right? Maybe they trade back with a team, and then they take Will Johnson at the end of the first. I think that is very much in play. Now 17th overall, we have the Bengals. I have them going Walter Nolan. Apparently Walter Nolan's another one of these guys. I don't know. There's something going on with like teams just really care about makeup right now, and I think it's a little bit of an overreaction because of like NIL, and there's like reports of like, do you really love football? Are you a good guy off the field? Whatever. Walter Nolan apparently doesn't pass those kinds of tests with flying colors, but he's very good defensive lineman out of Ole Miss, and I think he makes a lot of sense for the Bengals. The Bengals have been linked to a lot of like edge pieces, right? If it's not Mike Green, it could be James Pierce, but I think ultimately Trey Hendrickson comes back, and we see them go for interior over edge instead. Then with the Seahawks, we have Gray Zabel. And I'm not going to pretend to know who the hell this guy is. He plays offensive line for North Dakota State. It seems like he can play interior. It seems like he can play outside. This is a spot where I could see the Seahawks trading down. The Seahawks are also always like down to do really weird things. Like this could just be an off-the-wall pick here, but I think Gray Zabel makes sense. You want to protect Sam Darnold with the kind of quarterback he is. And last year, their interior offensive line was absolutely brutal. Next up, we have Tampa. 19 overall. This is a team that like historically has always had great linebackers with Levante David and Derek Brooks and Devin White. And I think Jahad Campbell makes sense. Apparently he's falling due to medicals. I think this is where he probably stops falling. His over-under props on like FanDuel and everything are like 18.5. Like it's all centered around this pick 19. I will go with the chalk and put him there. I've been saying the same thing, man. I've been saying the same thing. Who the fuck is Gray Zabel? I don't know. But he's pretty good. He is pretty good. After that, we have the Broncos. And this is where we're going to actually take Trevion Henderson over Amarion Hampton. A lot of people in and around the Broncos, Benjamin Albright being the one I'm referencing. He is really good in terms of historical accuracy, Benjamin Albright. He's very connected when it comes to the Broncos, and I think it makes sense. I think Trevion Henderson is a better fit for what Sean Payton wants out of his running back than Amarion Hampton. Then at 21, I have Shedeur. I don't feel great about this at all. I could see this being Dart. I could see this being Amarion Hampton if it falls this way. I could see this being defensive line if it falls this way. You could go. You could talk me into wide receiver as well for the Steelers, even though they have Pickens and Metcalf, but Pickens could be on the move. Ultimately, I have them going Shedeur. I think he kind of fits in well with Mike Tomlin, and he's kind of said some glowing things about them in interviews, but I'm like begrudgingly making it Shedeur Sanders at 21. Then we have the Chargers, and I will be honest with you. I think in a vacuum, if the Chargers sit here on the clock and they're staring down Colston Loveland and Kenneth Grant, not only is this pick one of those two Michigan men, right, with Jim Harbaugh there, but I think it's probably Colston Loveland. But again, the way that this mock draft works is I'm just trying to connect team to player. And I think it makes a lot more, it's a lot more likely that the Chargers take Kenneth Grant and Colston Loveland is either gone by them or they just prefer Kenneth Grant straight up. We'll have Colston Loveland a spot for him in a little bit. But at 23, we had a lot of talk this offseason. I think it was Josh Jacobs on a podcast saying the Packers need a wide receiver. I know that very famously the Packers don't draft wide receivers in the first round. They just said sort of screw you. But I think at this point, with Christian Watson's ACL injury and kind of all of the offseason talk and them still not getting over the hump when it comes to playoffs and Super Bowls, give me Emeka Egbuka. Apparently they've been doing his homework or doing their homework on Emeka Egbuka. I think he fits in there well. Is there some overlap in terms of like slot usage with Jaden Reed? Maybe a little bit, but I think especially too with the run game and the way that he can block, I think Emeka Egbuka makes a ton of sense. Now this is my first and only trade in this mock, but I think it makes a lot of sense. The Vikings, if you look at their picks, the Vikings have literally the 24th pick, the 97th, the 139th, and the 187th. Only 4 picks after the Jordan Mason trade. I'm not going to spend too much time really caring about what the compensation is. Sue me, man. 34 and 65 for 24, and they're 4th next year. What do we think? I think that is I don't know, man. I genuinely couldn't care. The compensation doesn't really matter. It's only a first-round mock, fellas. It's just simply the Vikings trade out of the first round, the Giants trade into the first round, and they do it to secure, oh my God, they do it to secure Jackson Dart. Now, my thinking here is that if a team trades up for a quarterback, or if a team trades up in general, I think it will be with the Vikings. The Vikings, again, need a lot of they need more picks, right? They only have 4 in this draft class. And I think the Giants make a lot of sense because I think the Saints are kind of fine with Shuck, which I think will be there for them at 40. Maybe the Browns make a move to come up, but I think that the Giants make a lot of sense. I think Jackson Dart also this is just my intuition. I think that he just fits what Brian Daboll wants to do more in terms of just like playing out of structure and being bigger, more physical, kind of a little bit more arm talent than a guy like Shedeur. So we have Dart at 24th. Then we have 25th overall, Tyler Booker. I think it just makes sense here where the heck is he? Tyler Booker. I think he makes sense. He's a guard. He tested really poorly, but this is a team that took Will Anderson, right? So they're familiar with Alabama. D'Amico Ryan's Alabama alumni as well, and they need offensive line help, so I think that he makes a lot of sense. Now, this is where I have Colston Loveland going. I have him going to the Rams, right? They missed out on Brock Bowers last year. I think that they are going to, at some point, either Loveland's going to fall hard because of his medicals. Apparently he has something up. I couldn't tell you exactly what it is with his medicals. Or they trade up, whether that could be, maybe that's with the Bucks, and the Bucks get Jahad Campbell at 26. Or maybe they trade up, with somebody else, or like the Falcons or the Dolphins, whatever. But I think that they trade up and they get Colston Loveland, or they sit tight and he falls into their laps. Then we have at 27, Baltimore. We're going to go with Malachi Starks. I think he was a big-time recruit. Was supposed to be like a top 10 pick and then kind of had like a down final year or two, but I think that he makes sense in that Baltimore Ravens scheme. Then we have Derek Harmon to the Lions. This one could be anybody. You could talk me into Izaraku. You could talk me into Josh Simmons. You could talk me into James Pierce. You could talk me into a lot of things, but like I said, we are going to go with where the heck is he? Derek Harmon. He's like a defensive tackle. He's somebody that, I don't know what my glasses are like, all jacked up right now. But he's a defensive tackle. I don't really know much about him. Apparently he's pretty good. I think that he has medical issues that are pushing him down in the first round, but he seems to be a defensive tackle people like. Then with Washington, I was very tempted to give them a Marion Hampton, but they have a defensive coach in Dan Quinn. They had a top 5 efficiency rushing offense last year. There's plenty of running backs to pick from in this class. Their defense was pretty brutal on paper. Like, yes, it was formidable with Dan Quinn, but when you just look at like the starting 11, it's pretty tough. So I think that they go Shamar Stewart, somebody who had like a 10 RAS, didn't have all the production in the world, but has all the tools. I think Washington probably sells themselves on him at the end of the day. Then we have the Bills. I think this is DB, whether it is Malachi Starks who falls to them, or if you want to go with Eman Wari's another one that you could take here. Benjamin Morrison's one you could take here. Trey Amos is one you could take here. But we're going to take the kid out of Kentucky, Maxwell Hairston. He seems to be like the highest consensus corner. If it's not him and it's like Amos instead, I wouldn't be shocked at all. Then we're going to take Josh Connerly out of Oregon for the Chiefs. They had Joe Thuney playing tackle last year. That was a brutal spot. Josh Simmons also in the mix as a tackle, but he's someone with medical issues. He like tore his like patella or something, or I don't know, something like that. I think that they'd rather somebody that's like ready to go and is a warm body right now. Then at 32, this pick could really be anything, but I think they go with a post-type sleeper. They lose some of their defensive line via, Brandon Graham retiring, and so, Milton Williams getting picked up. I think James Pierce makes a lot of sense. This is somebody that had like top 10, top 5 buzz heading into the year. Then he had a down year and some like character issues. But I think if he passes Big Dom's character check or whatever they do, I think that James Pierce makes a lot of sense at 32. And it just feels very Philly to just like take somebody that probably shouldn't be available at 32 when you talk about just like pure talent. So that is the final mock. That is what we submitted for grading, official scoring. That is where we're at. How does everybody feel about it? I'll answer the super chat, and then I will probably get up out of here. Again, this is just to, document this, post it, publish it somewhere. For the love of the game, 2 a.m., This is what we do. What do we got? Super chat. $5 from Ali Muhammad. What do you think about this trade? You trade Rome Odunze in a 2026 first, a 2027 third for Drake London in the 207 and a start, 3 wide receivers, 2 running back, 1 flex, 1 super flex, 1 quarterback. I got to be honest, I would hold off because if I'm going to tier up from Rome Odunze, I'd rather skip over Drake London, and I'd rather get into Nico Collins, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Puka, like Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors, CeeDee Lamb area. And if you have to pay a little more than that, I think I would. Like, instead of going for Drake London in the 207, I'd rather just go for Nico Collins. That'd be my only gripe there. I like the idea of tiering up from Rome, though. A little far-fetched, in my opinion. That's fair. Any chance Sanders goes at 3? I think the earliest he goes is 9. Doing all 7 rounds. For the love of the game, yep. Literally for the love of the game. Genty's minus 600 to go under 6.5. Yeah, I mean, I would say first and foremost, like, betting odds are just a reflection of what, like, money is coming in more than it is a representation of what's actually going to happen. And then I would also say, again, players to teams. So the Bears could easily just trade up and take Genty. It's just I'm just saying that Genty's going to be a Bear. That's all my prediction is. I don't really care to get into specifics of the number. Yeah, Hampton out of first round is pretty contrarian, but I think if Henderson goes to the Broncos and then if the Steelers pass on him, I think it would make sense. But I think some sneaky spots for Hampton would be Chargers, Rams, Washington. What else we got in here? You love this read the Bears. I think the Bears are going to have to trade up. I think they will trade up, though, you know? You're a fan of the Bears without Shane Waldron? Me too. But that's going to do it for us in this stream. I'm going to debate making this thumbnail look better after this thing goes live. We'll see. But appreciate you guys checking in. This is just simply for the love of the game. I love the NFL draft. It's, Christmas Eve. Sleep in tomorrow. Be ready to roll. And then, Friday and this weekend, we're going to have rookie draft content. We'll have the RS grade models all updated. We'll be ready to roll. But appreciate you guys watching, and I will see y'all in the next one.